Welcome to the new podcast, Cancer Simplified. My name is Duncan Darrow, and I will be the host for this program. I'm the founder of Fighting Chance, and for 22 years I've run the charity, which is the East End's only free cancer counseling center. At our clinic in Sag Harbor, we have a staff that has included oncology social workers and clinical psychologists. They have provided over 5,000 free counseling sessions to East End cancer patients who feel the disease is eroding their mental health and their emotional well-being. The goal of our podcast, sort of like our free counseling, is to simplify what cancer is all about so that the disease will be easier for patients and caregivers to understand, not to mention the general public. In most circumstances, the medical experts who are available locally at Stony Brook Medicine can provide the highest standard of care, but there are a few times, really just a few, when patients must travel to specialized treatments in New York City cancer centers. Last year with our partner Hampton Jitney, we provided this transportation in many cases. And so with that, let's just get started. Hello again, this is Duncan Darrow, the host of the podcast Cancer Simplified. And as you know, if you've listened to a few of our podcasts, we cover a very wide range of topics related to cancer, but with the common denominator being that the discussions are simplified almost with a feel that we're talking around a kitchen table. So if you've been a loyal listener, you know that our first podcast was entitled, What is Cancer? How's that for a start? And we talked about what cancer is in scientific terms, but also in ways that I think were accessible. Another podcast was a kind of technical topic, which was about genes. And I apologize for it being technical, but genes and the corruption of genes lie very much at the center of the story of cancer. Another episode looked at a more people-to-people topic, namely how many cancer patients who come to our clinic for therapy ask us, teach me to pray. So I think you can see that we're covering a pretty broad bit of the waterfront out here. And another question that I think comes up frequently, which we're going to discuss today, is people who have cancer and they live on the East End, and their question to Fighting Chance is, where do I go for treatment? And, this is the dilemma of what's called rural cancer care, meaning when someone lives in a rather rural area where cancer treatment facilities are kind of few and far between, and how they figure out which one to go to, and for that matter, how to get there. The good answer is there's a lot more options today than there were 20 or 30 years ago. If you go back to the 1990s, the 5 towns that make up the East End had no cancer center. That's right. All the way from West Hampton all the way to Montauk, there was no cancer center. There were oncologists, doctors, who practiced cancer care, but they were not coalesced in a center with, for example, a radiation machine, chemotherapy chairs, and kind of the rest of it. That changed, about, let's see, around 2018. That was a time when a woman named Phillips, who wasn't all that well known, but she was quite wealthy, came into a very sizable chunk of money, like $20 million. And she went to the rector of the Episcopal Church and said, I'd like to do something important with this. I would like the East End of Long Island to have a cancer center. Makes sense. And the head of the hospital was all for it. and it picked up steam really quite quickly. And within a period of about 3 or 4 years, the so-called Phillips Family Cancer Center was open and was a reality. Now, when that happened, Bob Challoner, who was the head of the hospital, came to me and he said, Duncan, you've kind of convinced me because I've watched you operate over the years. I've heard patient feedback from time spent at Fighting Chance. You've convinced me that the mental health dimension of cancer, getting people through the ups and downs and the bumps of the disease, really should be a central part of the overall cancer treatment. It shouldn't be door A, medicine, door B, mental health. It should all be together. And with that spirit, I would like you to open up a clinic right inside the Phillips Family Cancer Center. Put your big orange life preserver there, hire another very good oncology social worker, and let's try giving cancer patients mental health support while they're there. I mean, it could be while they're sitting in their chemo infusion chairs hour after hour. And so that was really a dream. It was a dream of his. It was always been a dream of mine because I saw the two disciplines as united. And that became the kind of distinctive feature of the Phillips Family Cancer Center, which is still going today and still has an office of Fighting Chance. Now, that's not the whole story, though, because over that same 5 or 6 year period, while the Phillips Family Cancer Center was growing, other players, if you want to call them that, in the field of cancer care started putting their oar in the water. And, as you can imagine, some of it was economics. They saw that there were cancer patients in need of medical support, and they felt that the Phillips Family Cancer Center could not do it all. And so maybe they would see, if they could be part of the game, so to speak. So just as an example, today, all the way over in Stony Brook, that's kind of far. That's about 90 miles, and it's sort of into New York and then due east. But there you will find the Stony Brook Cancer Center. That's a center with 40 chemo infusion chairs, whereas Phillips has 10. So it gives you just a sense of the magnitude of that cancer center. Now, you could also argue you get lost in the shuffle. It's just too damn big, and you're not going to get that that kind of special care that you would in a smaller center. Down the road, there's another cancer center called New York Cancer and Blood. And it's interesting. It's for profit. It has very good medicine, though. The number one oncologist, I think, in this part of the world, Dr. Louis Avento, who was once on our board, is serving as a chief oncologist at New York Cancer and Blood, serving at the tender age of something like 82. But he is a wonder, and so that's another option. Then you've got New York Hospital, and you've got NYU. They both have sizable satellite offices now out here on the East End. And if you want to get your treatment at NYU in New York, it's very easy to go into their satellite office in Bridgehampton, just kind of sign up, get the paperwork done, maybe do a quick Zoom call. You'll have to go into New York to see your oncologist, but you've got the process started out here. Same thing for New York Hospital. And then finally, we have the big gorilla, Memorial Sloan Kettering. Now, for years, people were just going to New York and Fighting Chance. Gosh, we subsidized scores of jitney tickets to get people into New York to Memorial. And we know a lot of the people at Memorial, and we have a great deal of respect for them. But it's a long way. It's 90 miles in, 90 miles back. Not everyone is in the mood to do that. One other compromise is Memorial has now opened a satellite office, and theirs is around exit 55. So just look at the kind of panoply of choices that you now have. Phillips, kind of close to home. The New York Cancer and Blood, kind of close to home. Stony Brook, pretty far away, but a monster of a facility. And then access to, the New York hospitals, the memorials, and so forth. So it's really quite a diverse set of cancer treatment facilities. And people ask us at Fighting Chance all the time, well, which one should I go to? Which one do you recommend? We try not to recommend one facility. We might recommend 2 or 3. We urge people, though, to read about facilities. They all have very elaborate websites. And someone will say, well, I've got a quirky kind of cancer. We certainly could say, well, NYU clearly has that one covered better than anyone else. We'll sit with them, read through what's on the website, and say, well, now you're an educated consumer. Why don't you, with your doctor, call them? You might have found, the place that's right for you. There's that music again, which means we're coming to the end of this podcast. By all means, first of all, visit our website, fightingchance.org. At the top of the homepage, you'll see a podcast button. Press it, and you can gain access to this podcast and all the other podcasts that we've prepared. The homepage also lets you click through to other services of Fighting Chance, which are available to residents of the East End of Long Island. For example, there is counseling appointments to help patients get through the highs and lows during the battle with cancer. There are free local taxis to get you to cancer-related doctor appointments on the South Fork. There are free Hampton Jitney tickets if you need to see a specialist in New York City, such as Memorial Sloan Kettering. And there's also a free local resource guide, about 25 pages, that we produce in partnership with the American Cancer Society. If you have any questions about what we've discussed in this podcast, please email them to admin@fightingchance.org, and we will try to get back to you individually or answer your inquiry in the next podcast. Oh, there's that music again. Time to go. Hope you tune in again to Cancer Simplified, brought to you by Fighting Chance.